What's going on, people? We are Tottenham TV back here for predicted lineup as we face Aston Villa at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. 2 p.m. kickoff on New Year's Day on Sunday. And Antonio Conte has been speaking in his press conference. We've got some injury news, some team news, and what is it, Sim?
Yeah, Rodrigo Bentancur unfortunately is out for longer than expected, and he picked up an injury at the World Cup. He was set to be available for the Aston Villa game, but unfortunately Conte said that the medical staff have said that he is going to be out longer than expected, so that's bad news for him. We'll have to wait and see for an MRI, he said, to see how long he'll be out. Lucas Moura continues to be injured as well, and Richarlison picked up a 4-week injury last week, so he is not going to be available for this game. But Romero is back in contention, which is great news. Yeah,
it really is great news because our defence definitely needs all the help it can get right now. But let's get into the predicted lineup. We're going for a 3-4-3 formation as per usual. And in goal is a return to our captain, Hugo Lloris.
Yeah, and was he on the bench in the end last week?
Yeah.
He was, yeah. So coming back after losing the World Cup final, hopefully for a good second half of the season. We're going to need him. I thought Forster, to be honest, looked so shaky last week, so I'm glad to have him back.
Yeah, we really are. I mean, with all the fans calling on Forster to start and Lloris to be dropped, I think I don't think anyone's calling for that anymore, are they?
Definitely not.
Let's move on to right wing back, and we're going to stick with Matt Doherty. There has been a few rumours floating around about Emerson Royale as well, seeing as his days could be numbered at Spurs. And Matt Doherty, with his really good form coming into this season with the friendlies and putting not too much of a bad performance in the last week against Brentford.
Yeah, and I think Conte's made a few comments about his return to good physical condition, and I thought he was okay against Brentford, so I think he's going to keep his place and hopefully provides another option when we do attack.
Absolutely. So that's Matt Doherty at right wing back. Right centre back is the big one. It is the return to Cuti Romero, like we spoke about in the injury news, and it's a much welcome return to Cuti.
Yeah, we've missed him massively. His aggressive style. Maybe he could help us be a bit proactive in our play as opposed to always conceding the first goal. Because in the last few games, out of this run of 9 games in a row, how many has he actually played? Maybe 1. I don't think he's played too many. So hopefully his return can see a better defensive display from Spurs and more proactiveness.
You know, absolutely. I'm just trying to get it up to see how many he's actually played, Cuti Romero, and I don't think it's been that many because he had that spell out injured, didn't he?
He came back for 1 game. I can't remember. It was against in the Champions League. I think it was against Sporting.
So
he was out again.
His last game for Spurs was Sporting, yeah. And after Sporting, we went 2-0 down to Bournemouth, went 1-0 down to Marseille, went 2-0 down to Liverpool, 2-0 down to Nottingham, 2-1 down to Leeds.
And 2-0 down to Brentford. Before Sporting, it probably wasn't too many because he was out injured before as well.
Before Sporting, he was injured for the Newcastle game, so he didn't play that game. He played in the Man United game, and then before that, we won every game. We beat Everton 2-0, beat Frankfurt 3-2, which we did go down in. Brighton, we won 1-0. Frankfurt, we kept a clean sheet and was the North London derby before that.
So look, he comes back a World Cup winner in good form. Conte said he's got a job to keep his feet on the ground, but he also said that he's seen a lot of focus and desire in training. So hopefully we see the Romero that we did see in the World Cup.
Yeah, absolutely. Alongside Christian Romero in the middle, we're going to give Eric Dyer the nod. Obviously, a lot of fans quite frustrated with Eric Dyer at the moment, with a few mistakes creeping back into his game. But hopefully the return of Cuti Romero can coincide with a bit of Eric Dyer good form as well.
Yeah, maybe it's no coincidence that when there's even more responsibility on Dyer and focus on Dyer without Romero there, that there are even more mistakes. And we say they're creeping back in, but at this point it must be stomping back in. I said with Brian the other day, and the mistakes are not just like positional mistakes, although he is making those as well, but they're really unforced, like ridiculous
schoolboy errors, really.
I mean, they're basic. Like you think about the Liverpool one not so long ago, and then against Brentford, that swipe under no pressure, he could have taken a touch or two if he wanted, and it was just horrendous how he kicked out for a corner. He needs to cut that out in his game, but hopefully with Romero now alongside him, he can put in a bit more of a confident display, and hopefully can get back to the Dyer of early in the season and end of last season.
Yeah, let's hope so. Let's hope so. So that's Romero and Dyer to make up that back three. It's a toss-up between Davis and Longley, but we are siding with Longley after his good performance at the Brentford Community Stadium.
Yeah, and there's been a week break. I know he likes Davis there, and Davis was on the bench, but we think Longley put in a good display against Brentford, put in some nice crosses as well, so was really helping out the attack. I don't see a reason to drop him, so I think we're going to keep him.
Yeah, absolutely spot on. And to make up that back five, Ivan Perisic on the left. I mean, Sessegnon could play there as well, but I think Perisic was brilliant, probably one of our best players at Brentford, so he definitely keeps his place in my opinion.
Again, I think maybe in the next game when there's a bit of a quick turnaround, you might see some changes, but I really believe...
it is FA Cup against Portsmouth. So
no,
yeah.
got Palace, no?
Oh, is it Palace first? Yeah, Palace first.
So I think maybe we'll see some changes there, but I think given that we've had a week break, I think when someone like Perisic is available, you've got to play him, and also up against Ashley Young, you fancy his chances to really hurt Aston Villa, so I think Perisic has to play.
What's that? A combined age of like 68 on that side.
Like that.
But let's run through that back line with you guys one more time. So in goal, Hugo Lloris. Right wing back, Matt Doherty. Left wing back, Ivan Perisic. And a back three of Romero, Dyer and Longley. Moving on to the midfield, we're going to talk about Yves Bissouma first. I mean, he came in against Brentford and I thought it was okay, nothing great. I thought in the first half he definitely got overran a bit, but I thought he improved in the second.
Yeah, it was once Spurs took control of the game and he had more time and space on the ball that we saw a lot better from Bissouma. But in the first half, when Brentford were really pressing us intensely and getting in our faces, he was struggling and wasn't great from Bissouma, and he was very lucky that Ivan Toney offside spared some blushes from him from a really poor mistake. But he did improve, and hopefully he'll learn from that, and against Aston Villa he's going to have another job on his hands, but I believe he's up to the task. I really believe in Bissouma. I believe once we start seeing the best of him, he's going to be a big success here, but it's just taking a bit of time.
Yeah, let's hope it's not the same belief as we had in Giovanni Lo Celso. But to put next to Bissouma is obviously going to be Pierre-Emile Højbjerg. Again, I thought he had a fairly poor first half against Brentford, but grew into the game, obviously got that equaliser in the game as well to make it 2-2. So I think Højbjerg and Bissouma is pretty much nailed on this weekend.
Yeah, especially with Bentancur's injuries, and it's a big shame. He's a big miss, Bentancur, with his ability in the centre to just keep things calm and drive the ball forward, and his dribbling ability, which has really come on. And we don't really have that right now without him. But Højbjerg, his ability to maybe make those late runs in the box, get on the end of things, and also his tenacity in the centre is a massive help. And he's obviously starting to contribute with goals and assists, which you really, really need when maybe other attacking players aren't contributing. So Højbjerg is a big player against Villa.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's Bissouma and Højbjerg double pivot, and the attack pretty much sorts itself out with Richarlison being out injured. So on the right-hand side is going to be Decky, and it's going to be a massive game for him. I thought... I was looking for more from Decky in the Brentford game, to be honest. I know he got that assist and there was a few nice moments, but I wasn't entirely convinced by his display.
I liked him against Brentford, actually. I thought he was the only one actually beating players and getting into the box and turning defenders. Wanted to see him more involved, as he was, but I thought with the few times, even in the first half, I thought he was our only player in the first half looking to create something, and I felt sorry for him at times, but obviously want to see more from him. He was unlucky, obviously the assist got taken away from him because there was a bit of a deflection, but hopefully he gets back on it against Aston Villa.
Yeah, I'm backing him to get a goal or an assist in this game 100%. On the left hand side, we're going to stick with Heung-min Son.
And a lot of talk's been made about Sonny. A lot of people criticising his performance against Brentford. Did have 3 shots on target, although they probably maybe weren't the best efforts. But he was getting in and around the penalty area. Needs to be obviously a bit more clinical, but they were, I think, outside the box, a lot of those shots. Did grow into it in the second half, was starting to break the lines a bit. But until he scores, people are still going to ask questions, aren't they?
Yeah, they are. But I think, when you don't take into account the rest of his performances this season, it wasn't the greatest performance. It wasn't the pinnacle Sonny display, but I think that people are criticising a bit over the top for that game against Brentford, in my opinion.
Yeah, fair enough. And I think he wasn't as bad as everyone's saying, in my opinion. I agree with that. But when he's not getting like inside the box and beating players as often as we know he can, people like, cause just because he set himself such high standards.
Yeah, absolutely. And then to make up that final 11 is obviously going to be Harry Kane up top, and he's obviously just central to everything that we do. And against Brentford, I felt that he stayed up top quite a bit without coming too deep to collect the ball and influence the play too much. And I'd like to see him do a bit more of that against Villa. Come deep, make that extra man in midfield and really feed Son and Kulusevski.
Yeah, it's all about finding a balance. And sometimes when it comes deep too much, people say, oh, he should be up front more. And he goes up front too much. And people say, oh, actually, you should come deep and do some playmaking. But he showed his striking abilities that he's never lost with that header against Brentford. And hopefully against Aston Villa, he's up against two centre-backs who are big, strong physically, so he's going to have to be smarter in this game. Maybe dropping deep and leaving some space open is the way to go. But I'm hoping Kane can be the central to all our attacking play against Villa.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's run through that predicted lineup with you guys one more time. So in goal, Hugo Lloris, a back three of Romero, Dyer and Longley, Perisic on the left, Doherty on the right, with Højbjerg and Bissouma in the middle of the park, with Kulusevski and Heung-min Son supporting Harry Kane. If that is the lineup, what's your score prediction?
I am going for 3-1 to Spurs. I'm not sure we'll have enough to keep a clean sheet against some talented attacking players, but I really believe with that team, we should have more than enough to really hurt Aston Villa, who I think are fairly weak defensively, in my opinion, even with Unai Emery in charge. And we should have the quality to really hurt them. So I've gone 3-1.
Yeah, I've gone 3-2, just because of how Spurs have been the last 6 or 7 games in terms of their defensive displays, albeit Romero hasn't been there for the majority of those games. So maybe you got a case saying that we will concede one less goal, but I'm gonna stick with 3-2 anyway, because we are so defensively frail, but hoping for 3 points. We're gonna be there in the stadium on a Sunday, 2 o'clock kickoff, so very much looking forward to that. We'll see you all there. Like, subscribe and comment, and as always, come on you Spurs.